your buddy Drew with Living History's Mysteries and Ferocious Feline Production. You know, one of the cool things about doing the 31 Days of Halloween on Living History's Mysteries is looking at some of these stories, some of these first-hand accounts of the different Halloweenish subjects that we could talk about. One of the things I think that frighten me most are those mysterious disappearances. The ones where there are no clues left behind. I had a chance to look into one such legend from back east. And this one really kind of makes you wonder. Check this out. This is good.
Imagine venturing into the heart of a remote wilderness where the trees seem to whisper ancient secrets and the shadows conceal more than just darkness. What if you knew that people have walked these very paths before, only to vanish without a trace, leaving behind nothing but chilling mysteries? This is the true unsolved story of the Bennington Triangle, where 5 lives were lost and the answers have been swallowed by the forest. Stay with me as we dive into one of the most unsettling and baffling cases in American history. In the remote wilderness of Vermont, nestled among the rolling hills of the Green Mountains, lies an area that has baffled experts, stoked the fires of superstition, and left families in agony over the unexplained disappearances of their loved ones. This is the Bennington Triangle, a stretch of land that encompasses the small towns of Glastonbury, Bennington, Woodford, and Shaftesbury. To some, it is merely a beautiful but rugged region of the northeastern United States, known for its dense forests and isolated terrain, but to others, it is a place of eerie legends, where time and reality seem to warp, and where several people have mysteriously vanished without a trace. The Bennington Triangle is a place where the line between the natural and the supernatural blurs, and where the wilderness holds secrets that have eluded explanation for more than 7 decades. Though it was author Joseph A. Citro who first coined the term Bennington Triangle in the 1990s, the area's reputation for strangeness goes back much further, rooted in the local folklore of the indigenous Abenaki people. The Abenaki regarded Glastonbury Mountain, the heart of the Bennington Triangle, as cursed, a place that was better left undisturbed. They believed that the mountain was home to malevolent spirits, and they avoided it whenever possible, preferring to hunt and live in the safer, more fertile lowlands. By the 19th century, European settlers had moved into the region, and the small town of Glastonbury was established as a logging community. For a time, it was a thriving hub of activity, with sawmills, tanneries, and a bustling railroad that carried lumber down to the larger towns and cities. But as the forests were depleted, so too was the town's economy. By the early 20th century, Glastonbury had become a ghost town, its buildings abandoned, its railroad tracks overgrown with weeds, and its streets silent and empty. What had once been a thriving community was now a desolate reminder of the boom and bust cycle that defined so many early American settlements. As Glastonbury faded into obscurity, strange stories began to emerge from the surrounding woods. Locals spoke of strange lights that danced in the sky at night, mysterious creatures that prowled the forests, and eerie sounds that echoed through the mountains. These tales were often dismissed as mere superstition, the product of overactive imaginations, or the isolation of rural life. But as the years passed, the stories became harder to ignore, especially when they were accompanied by real, tangible events that defied explanation. The first of these events occurred on November 12, 1945, when an experienced hunter and guide named Mitty Rivers vanished while leading a group of hunters through the woods near Glastonbury Mountain. Rivers, who was 74 years old at the time, was known for his deep knowledge of the area. He had spent his entire life in the Green Mountains, and he knew the terrain like the back of his hand. On that fateful day, Rivers was leading his group back to camp after a successful morning hunt. He was walking ahead of the others when he rounded a bend in the trail and disappeared from sight. When the rest of the group reached the same spot moments later, they were shocked to find that Rivers was nowhere to be seen. They called out his name, searched the surrounding area, and retraced their steps, but there was no sign of the elderly guide. The only clue they found was a single rifle cartridge lying in a stream, a puzzling discovery that only deepened the mystery. A massive search was launched, involving hundreds of volunteers, local law enforcement, and even the U.S. Army. They scoured the mountains for days, combing through the dense underbrush, the rocky outcrops, and the deep ravines. But Mitty Rivers had vanished without a trace. It was as if the earth had swallowed him whole. The disappearance of Mitty Rivers shocked the local community, but it was only the beginning. Just over a year later, on December 1st, 1946, an 18-year-old college student named Paula Weldon went missing while hiking on the Long Trail, a popular hiking route that passes through the Bennington Triangle. Weldon, a sophomore at Bennington College, had set out alone for an afternoon hike. She was last seen by several witnesses, including a group of fellow hikers who gave her directions to the trailhead. Weldon was described as being in good spirits, eager to explore the trail, but she never returned to her dormitory that evening. When Paula Weldon failed to show up for her classes the next day, a search was immediately organized. Her disappearance attracted widespread attention, with hundreds of volunteers joining the search effort. The search was one of the largest in Vermont's history, involving local police, state troopers, military personnel, and even the FBI. Helicopters, bloodhounds, and search parties combed the area, but despite the extensive effort, no trace of Paula Weldon was ever found. There were no footprints, no discarded belongings, no signs of a struggle, nothing to indicate what had happened to the young woman. The only clue was a rumor that she had been seen at a bus stop in a nearby town, but this lead was never substantiated, and the trail quickly went cold. Paula Weldon's disappearance sent shockwaves through the region, and it wasn't long before rumors and speculation began to swirl. Some believed that she had run away, perhaps to escape the pressures of college life. Others speculated that she had been abducted, possibly by a drifter or a local recluse. There were even whispers of a connection to the strange lights and sounds that had been reported in the area. Could Paula have been the victim of something otherworldly? Despite the myriad of theories, the truth remained elusive, and Paula Weldon's case remains unsolved to this day. The disappearances did not stop with Paula Weldon. In fact, they only seemed to escalate. On December 1st, 1949, exactly 3 years after Weldon's disappearance, James Tedford, a 68-year-old World War II veteran, vanished while traveling on a bus from St. Albans to Bennington. Tedford had been visiting relatives in St. Albans and was on his way back to the Bennington Soldiers' Home, where he lived. According to witnesses, Tedford was on the bus when it departed from the last stop before Bennington, but when the bus arrived at its destination, Tedford was nowhere to be found. The mystery of James Tedford's disappearance is one of the most perplexing of all. The other passengers and the bus driver were adamant that Tedford had been on the bus when it left the previous stop. His luggage was still in the overhead compartment, his bus schedule was on his seat, and his coat was draped over the back of his chair. But Tedford himself had vanished. The bus had not made any stops along the way, and no one had seen Tedford leave the vehicle. It was as if he had simply evaporated into thin air. Tedford's disappearance only added to the growing sense of unease in the Bennington Triangle. What was happening in this remote corner of Vermont? Why were people vanishing without a trace? As with the previous cases, no explanation was ever found, and Tedford's fate remains one of the many unsolved mysteries of the region. In October 1950, the Bennington Triangle claimed another victim, this time an 8-year-old boy named Paul Jepson. Paul was the son of a caretaker who worked at a local dump near the town of Bennington. On October 12, 1950, Paul accompanied his mother to the dump, where she left him playing near the pigsty while she attended to some chores. When she returned a few minutes later, Paul was gone. Panicked, she searched the area, calling out his name, but there was no response. She immediately contacted the police, and a search was launched. But despite the efforts of hundreds of volunteers, no trace of Paul Jepson was ever found. Paul's disappearance was particularly troubling because he was wearing a bright red jacket, a color that should have made him easy to spot in the dense underbrush. Yet despite this, the searchers found no sign of him. There were no footprints, no discarded clothing, no evidence of a struggle, nothing to indicate what had happened to the young boy. Some speculated that Paul had wandered off into the woods and become lost, but this seemed unlikely given the short amount of time he had been left alone. Others suggested that he might have been abducted, but again, there was no evidence to support this theory. Paul Jepson's disappearance was the fourth in a series of strange and unexplained vanishings in the Bennington Triangle, and by this point, the locals were gripped with fear. Was there a serial killer on the loose? Were these people falling victim to some unknown natural phenomenon? Or was something even more sinister at work? The questions hung heavy in the air, but there were no answers, only more disappearances. The final disappearance in this bizarre series occurred just 16 days later, on October 28, 1950. Frida Langer, a 53-year-old experienced outdoors woman, was hiking with her cousin near the Somerset Reservoir, a remote body of water located within the Bennington Triangle. During the hike, Langer slipped and fell into a stream, soaking her clothes. She told her cousin that she would return to their campsite to change into dry clothes and would catch up with him shortly. However, when her cousin returned to the campsite later that day, Langer was nowhere to be found. Alarmed, Langer's cousin contacted the authorities, and another search was launched. Like the previous searches, this one was extensive, involving hundreds of volunteers, search dogs, and even aircraft. But despite their best efforts, Langer was not found. The search was called off after several days, and it seemed that Langer had become yet another victim of the Bennington Triangle's strange and unexplained forces. However, unlike the other cases, Langer's disappearance took an even more unsettling turn. 6 months later, on May 12, 1951, her body was discovered in a remote area of the woods, an area that had been thoroughly searched during the initial search effort. The discovery of Langer's body raised more questions than answers. How had her body ended up in a place that had already been searched? What had happened to her during those 6 months? And why had the previous search efforts failed to find her? The cause of her death could not be determined due to the state of decomposition, and her case remains one of the most puzzling in the history of the Bennington Triangle. The disappearances of Mitty Rivers, Paula Weldon, James Tedford, Paul Jepson, and Frida Langer have become the stuff of legend in Vermont, and they continue to baffle investigators and captivate the imagination of those who hear their stories. Were these individuals victims of foul play, natural disasters, or something even more sinister? The answers to these questions may never be known, but the legacy of the Bennington Triangle will endure as one of the most perplexing mysteries in American history. The story of the Bennington Triangle is a chilling reminder of the unknown forces that may lurk in the dark corners of our world. It is a tale of fear, loss, and the unexplainable, a story that continues to haunt those who dare to explore its depths. As we ponder the fate of those who vanished in the shadow of the Green Mountains, we are left with an unsettling realization. There are places on this earth where reality seems to unravel, where the line between the known and the unknown blurs, and where the truth may forever remain just out of reach. And here we have reached to the end of the video. I hope you liked the story. Please do subscribe to the channel and leave a like. And if you want me to talk about a story, please comment below the story you would like me to make a video of. Thank you and see you soon.
Welcome back. You know, it's like I was saying in the beginning, there's not a lot of things in this world that frighten me. But these mysterious disappearances, these people, especially small children, that just vanish without a trace for no rhyme, no reason. They leave behind no clues and no idea what happened to them. These were not just people disappearing in a park like the missing 411 cases. We had a gentleman disappear from a moving bus. His bags, his coat, everything was left behind. That he was gone. And what about the woman who was found some time later after the search was called off in a location that had been searched over and over with so much detail? There's no way they could have missed her. But here is a badly decomposed body found in a location that had been searched with people, been searched with dogs, been searched with aerial equipment. How do we explain these things? Are they paranormal? Are they extraterrestrial? Or is it just one of those mysteries that history has left behind for us to try to figure out? Keep looking in on us as we continue to go with the 31 days of Halloween on Living History Mysteries. They're only going to get better from here, folks, and we got a lot of October left. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. God bless you. God love you. We do. We'll see you out there.